Alright, the time is finally here. I get to talk about Edgar Wright's... Oh. Pay no attention to that for the next few weeks. Edgar Wright's latest movie, Baby Driver. Let's do this. So if you saw my most anticipated films of 2017 video, I had Baby Driver on that list, and all I really knew about the film was that it features a getaway driver who listens to music, and it was directed by Edgar Wright, and that's all I needed to know to get really excited about it. This is a director who I've followed since, I guess, the late 90s with Spaced, and then forward to his movie career with Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, Scott Pilgrim, and The World's End, and it was going to be Ant-Man following that, and I love Ant-Man, but I really wish that Edgar Wright had followed through on that. It would have been interesting to see a full Edgar Wright, big blockbuster style movie like Ant-Man, but nevertheless he focused on this arguably smaller movie, Baby Driver, but nonetheless it's a film that has a lot of action and some big names, probably the biggest names that he's ever had in one of his films. Well, definitely I would say with Jamie Foxx and Kevin Spacey. Apparently when they were on set and there was a scene between Kevin Spacey and Jamie Foxx, Edgar Wright would say this is an Oscar two-shot. So yeah, this is definitely a bigger territory for Edgar Wright, but at the same time I do feel like Baby Driver is a smaller film, or as small as his other movies. You know, they're not these huge like summer tentpole films, but they're pretty, you know, they get some buzz based on his reputation, based on the films he made before, and his signature style. And Darren Luck, if you're watching this, you can tell me he's a hack until you're blue in the face. I don't give a shit. I love Edgar Wright. Space is one of my favorite TV shows. Going to see Shaun of the Dead in the cinema was one of the best cinema experiences of my life. I love Shaun of the Dead. I don't think I saw Hot Fuzz in the cinema. I had to wait till the DVD for that one. And even the same with Scott Pilgrim. I didn't see that one in the cinema. But The World's End was another one of my favorite cinema experiences, and probably my favorite Edgar Wright film. Even though I think that Shaun of the Dead is probably still his best, you know, there's just something so special about that film for me, I think. And it really launched him into the stratosphere of, you know, the realm of movies where he's popular. Again, I wouldn't say Edgar Wright is like a Christopher Nolan or one of those directors that is hugely popular, but he's really popular. You know, he's on the cusp. You know, as far as people who like that kind of stuff and are into geeky things, I think that Edgar Wright is. I mean, I look at his Instagram and there's not that many people following him. You know, so I do feel like he hasn't quite reached the next level. And why that is, I don't know. But again, his films, they're special, but they don't feel like these big events that get kind of built up so much, unless you're a fan like I am. Now let's talk about the film Baby Driver. It's about a driver called Baby, played by Ansel Elgort, I believe is his name, who's great in the film as the main character. I thought he was excellent, really a really good performance. And he's this young guy who had an accident when he was a kid. He has bad hearing. And so he's gotten into this bad lifestyle of being a getaway driver. He got into some trouble with the character of Doc, played by Kevin Spacey. He stole one of his cars when he was young, and now he's working to pay off that debt by being a getaway driver for robberies and things like that. It's not a life he wants to be in. He does it just to, again, pay off his debt, clear his name and move on with his life. His parents are no longer around. He's with a foster father who he's caring for at this point, who, as luck would have it, is, I believe he's deaf. Yeah, he's deaf, so he does sign language and stuff, and so really Baby is someone who doesn't really speak to anyone because of his hearing problem. He listens to music all the time to kind of drown out the kind of the hum inside his head, I suppose. So this film was a very musical film, and I joked on Twitter that this is a better car film than the past 7 Fast and the Furious movies. It's a better musical than La La Land, and of course it isn't really, but I think this is really a musical film, but a musical like you probably have not really seen before, and for that I think it is so impressive. The way that music is used in this film is, it's next level stuff. It's stuff that you don't see in films. Me and Connie went to see it last night. There was a preview screening. I think it comes out properly in a few days, and she was saying, or I was saying, what was so cool about the film was when there was like these kind of gunfights and stuff, you know, people shooting away at each other and stuff, the gunfire was going in sync with the music. It was incredible. And she said, well, they do that in trailers. I was like, yeah, in trailers, but you don't see this kind of thing in movies. That's what's so different and cool about it. And Edgar Wright's films, all of them, I think, take place in this kind of hyper reality. It's not quite, you know, this raw and gritty kind of, you know, almost documentary style, you know, filmmaking. It really is a slightly tweaked version of reality with that Edgar Wright twist where, you know, things happen that don't happen in real life, but you still buy into the story like it is a real story that you're watching unfold. I think that's a really impressive feat, because, I mean, I guess maybe Scott Pilgrim is the most outlandish in terms of that kind of hyper-reality, and this one is certainly lower than that, but I liked how, you know, there are certain things where you have to make concessions, when the stakes start getting a bit higher towards the end of the film, where things start, I mean, not things that are unrealistic, but things that, you know, again, it's almost a touch of surreal, and again, a touch of surreal. I'm not saying it's a surreal film, but it has those moments to it. And you know, with the musical scenes, the opening sequence of the film is a getaway drive. You know, we get introduced to Baby's world instantly with him helping these robbers get away. You get to see how great he is behind the wheel, how he listens to music and goes with the beat, and that's how he you know, has this incredible driving skill, because he can kind of zone into this kind of musical world where he is an incredible driver. And then we have the opening credits after that, and the opening credit sequence is him leaving the building where they kind of arrange all the robberies, walks down the street, goes to a coffee shop, orders some coffee, walks back, and it's all one take. Reminds me a bit of one of the scenes in Shaun of the Dead when he leaves the house and goes to get the ice cream. But he's listening to music, and like there's like noises on the street, there's like things on the wall behind him that link into the song that he's listening to, and it's like a musical. It is like a musical. So obviously, all great musicals have that touch of the surreal to them, that hyper-reality where it's not quite real life, but you kind of buy into the movie world that is created and put in front of you. But there are still stakes in the film that I really got invested in. I really cared about the character of Baby. One thing I guess I could pick at is that I think he's someone who is completely isolated. He meets a girl in the film, and they get talking and they kind of have a connection. He tells her that, you know, I've spoken to you more, you know, in the past hour than I've spoken to anyone all year, which makes you kind of think that he's probably someone who would be very socially awkward. And again, when he's getting ready to do these robberies and stuff, he sits there with his headphones and he doesn't speak to anyone unless they speak to him, and they kind of get annoyed by him being so silent. So it is a bit of a stretch that he's so charismatic with this girl and is able to charm her so easily, because I feel like a character like that would be really kind of awkward in social situations. But again, it's part of the movie, it's part of that hyper-reality that just draws you into the story and the characters. And most of the main characters, you know exactly what they want. You know, Kevin Spacey's Doc, he wants to make money. You know, he's just in it to make money. And then you have Jamie Foxx's character, who's a very dangerous character and is such a loose cannon that you don't know what is going to happen next with him. And I find that really exciting and kind of scary in the film. And he's great in it. And he's in it for the thrill. He's in it for the thrill of the robbery, you know. Then you have John Hamm's character and his wife, I think, or girlfriend. And they're in it, you know, to fund their extravagant lifestyle. So you know what each character wants. And with Baby, he just wants to get out of this life. He wants to get away from this mess that he put himself in by stealing that car all those years ago. And he wants to just leave, you know, and kind of get out and just, you know, start his life, I guess, in a way, start his adult life and kind of move away from this lifestyle that he really doesn't like. Like he doesn't mind doing the driving and kind of, I guess, you know, helping these robbers with the money, but he really doesn't like it when people get hurt along the way, and that gets introduced in the film. Another thing I would say against it, during one of the robberies, something goes bad, someone gets hurt, a civilian, and you see Baby reacting to this, and it's like, holy shit, you know, and you see how he feels like this shouldn't be happening. You know, this is going too far. And then it cuts straight to a joke, and the joke is tremendous. I think the joke is hilarious, but I didn't laugh because it was cut so soon after this really serious moment where he saw that someone got hurt, and he didn't have time to breathe. So yeah, there's a couple of things, but they're so minor. They really wash away when the whole film, you know, is watched in one sitting. Like it's such a joyful film to watch unfold. It's such a good time. And I was also impressed by how, again, the opening sequence, getaway drive, and then the opening credits is kind of a musical number in a way. The film's very stylistic, but once it settles down into more normal scenes, I felt it really worked well, and the transition from the distinctive flair that the film has into more normal territory before we get to more, flary kind of stuff, I thought was really well done, and it held up. It didn't feel like, okay, we've done the flashy stuff, now let's just kind of go down to boring scenes. Every scene moved along very quickly and had interesting moments, whether they were funny, whether they were sad, heartbreaking, intense. There's some really tense scenes in the film, and I kind of felt like towards the end of the film, like you cut 20 minutes off the end and give it a good ending, and I think it would be a great film. Because there was a point where I was thinking, okay, it's probably going to end in the next 10 minutes, and it was another half an hour, and I loved that extra half, or that extra 20 minutes or so, which I wasn't expecting. So yeah, it gave me more than I thought it was going to give me, which would have been enough to satisfy me anyway. Jamie Foxx is great, Kevin Spacey is great as always. I really like John Hamm in the film, and where his character kind of descends to throughout. And again, Ansel Elgort was phenomenal as Baby. I thought just really brought that character to life in a perfect way. Lily James, I believe, is the actress who plays the girl who Baby has a bit of a romance with. I thought she was very good. Yeah, the cast is really solid. I think, who was the guy at the beginning? Shane from The Walking Dead. What's his name? I've forgotten the guy's name. Shane from Walking Dead. His name's completely lost, but he was in the beginning of the film. I thought he'd be in it more, but he was only in that opening sequence. He was pretty good too. Yeah, so great cast, but the direction and the editing is stellar. And the editing goes with the music, so the sound mixing has to be praised as well. But also Edgar Wright's, direction. He wrote this film, he directed it. It was based off a music video that he made years ago. And it's more than, the editing needs to be praised, but it's also about the way that it's been set up to be edited. Because Edgar Wright meticulously kind of puts his films together in that kind of kinetic style, where the music and the sound and the fast, rapid selection of shots are all there to make this kind of seamless experience that is really enjoyable and something like you don't see in normal movies. It's something you see in music videos or trailers, but expanded to a movie that has a good story, holds up under its own narrative, but has all of this cool stuff as well, which is just so special and, to me, I think unique. I loved the film from start to finish, gets full marks from me. And the music, the soundtrack is great, and it wasn't one of those soundtracks where it's like, oh wow, it's that song, oh it's that song. It was like, oh, that's a really good song, never heard that before, oh that really works well, I wonder what that song is. And I'm sure there's people who've heard all the music that's in the film, but for me, a lot of it was news. It wasn't like they were going to those kind of, going to the well of using all of these popular tracks. It was like more interesting choices that worked just as well as anything really famous. Though there are a few famous songs in there. There's a Queen song, which I've never heard, so I like the music selection as well. And yeah, there's more I could go into. I laughed out loud a few times. It's, I think, the least funny Edgar Wright film in the best possible way, and I mean that in terms of quantity. It's not a film that's going for jokes, over and over and over again, like the Cornetto trilogy. And I think that it's interesting that this was written by Edgar Wright, and Edgar Wright alone, with Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz and The World's End. He wrote it with Simon Pegg. And so you have this distinctive director, and you have this, in my opinion, very funny writer and performer, Simon Pegg, and they put together these incredible comedy films. With this, it's very funny when it's trying to be funny, but there's more, well, not that there's more story, but it isn't going for those jokes all the time. And I felt like it was a really nice transition from the Pegg, Frost, Wright stuff to a film where it's still Edgar Wright, but it's a more serious Edgar Wright, and the car scenes were brilliant. The action sequences are phenomenal, and as gimmicky as it is to have music playing, and a lot of the times, well, all the times, I think all the time you hear the music in the film is when Baby's got his headphones in or he's playing it on the radio. It's a great scene where he needs to steal another car, and he can't leave until he's found a good track on the radio, So yeah, the music that's playing all the time is in Baby's headphones, and so it kind of makes sense because the guns are firing off and he's hearing this music and it's going in the beat. Obviously that's so unrealistic, but it's so fun to watch, and it might sound like it's gimmicky, okay, shoot, the beat's going, the car door slams, sounds gimmicky, but it just really worked. Like, if this is why Edgar Wright takes 3 years to make a film, I'm down with waiting another 3 years till the next one, because I thought this was an excellent film, and it almost beats Logan for my favourite film of the year so far. Absolutely loved it. And one final thing, and if you've seen the film, you probably get what I'm talking about. I won't spoil anything, but I loved the final 3 minutes of the film. I felt like that really hit it home. I felt like that really solidified everything, because you could end the film before that final 3 minutes or so, and it would be great. You know, it would be a good time. But I think those final 3 minutes, that really adds a layer of credibility that makes the story so much more enjoyable and believable. So yeah, I love the way the film closed as well. So yeah, that's it. If you've seen the film, let me know your thoughts on it, and thanks for watching.
It's alright by me. Apart from the fact he throws cans of Carlin into a tree. Yeah, he's really cool. Yeah, he's really cool. But he's not quite as cool as you, 'cause